Who's there? Hello? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi,
All right.
this is Charlene with EDC, Fresno County Economic Development Corporation.
Thank you for joining.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Move the speaker closer to the sound.
Hi, this is Fernando with the City of Selma. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
I know it says I'm muted on my camera, but I'm actually in the council chamber, so I'm speaking through a separate microphone.
Fancy.
No, it's fine. I figured it out. Sorry, I'm speaking to our city clerk here. I'll mute. Can you mute us?
I think we can wait maybe another minute or two, and then we can get started on this. Does that sound good, Fernando?
Wait another minute or two.
Yeah.
And Eric, you got my sound here?
Yes.
Okay. Sound is working, video is not, so I'll have to be elusive.
As they say, you have a face for radio.
You know, I don't think I have the radio voice.
The face for radio.
Oh, no, I don't either. Neither.
you don't get it.
Oh, no, I'm slow today, not enough coffee.
Well, Fernando, do you want to go ahead and do some introductions, and we can not punish those that were punctual?
Well, good afternoon, everyone who is joining us today. My name is Fernando Santillan. I am the Community Development Director for the City of Selma, and it is my pleasure to be part of this project that is going to benefit the City of Selma, the residents, the community, and all the stakeholders. I will go ahead and let Rincon, the staff members from Rincon, who is our consultant for this project, introduce themselves. But I did want to kind of preface their presentation by saying that you know, the city is undertaking this project. Most of it is grant funded, but it's a project that has been a long time coming. Our zoning ordinance currently was originally adopted back in the 1960s, and there have been some updates here and there over the years, but nothing as comprehensive as what we're undertaking now. And the significance of this project is pretty far-reaching, is going to have benefits and for pretty much anyone who lives in Selma, because it's going to guide the development standards, the built environment for people who are looking to develop here in Selma, property owners, and anyone who has an interest in Selma and living here, business owners, really anyone. So I want to thank Rincon Consultants, Eric, Della, as well as Brent from Mintier Harnish, who's a part of the team as well. And just wanted to give them a chance to introduce themselves as well.
Thank you, Fernando. My name is Eric Von Berg. I'm with Rincon Consultants, and I'm the project manager for this project. And we're very happy to be doing this work. We've been working with the city of Selma the last couple of years on some other projects. And so really happy to continue this project here. And as well on our team is not listed here, but Della Acosta, and who's assistant project manager, and then Andreas Sanchez, who's running behind the scenes today for this. And Brent, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good. Thank you, Eric. My name is Brent Gibbons. I am a senior project manager with Mintier Harnish. We're a planning firm based out of Sacramento. I have extensive background in zoning code and zoning ordinance updates. That's my niche. So I'm glad to be partnering with Rincon to help the city of Selma through this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Next slide, Andres. So this is our agenda for today. So we were going to, it's a lot of this is just we're looking at as educational to the public to understand what is a zoning ordinance, what it can and cannot do, why are we updating this ordinance, and talking about today Selma's zoning ordinance, what's in it now, what are we looking at changing, and then most importantly to get your input on what you would like to see in the city of Selma and what that zoning ordinance could do for you. So sort of as an introduction, and as well, feel free to use the hand raising or just speak up during the presentation. If you have a question, something doesn't make sense, please just let us know and we can try to explain it in further detail. So right now, just to kind of break the ice and see what you guys are doing, I would, here's these two questions here of think of a city or an area within your city that you like, or any city, including Selma, and how does that make you feel being in that city or that part of town? What is it that you like about it? Anyone?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of new to this. I unmuted it. So I'm Richard Smith. I have KMAK FM in Orange Cove. I have the Buck Owens Crystal Palace lawyers for my trust and my LLC. I know a lot of people over the years. I've been in this business since 1990, and I tried to get in and out to purchase some land over here. Actually, know their agent. I called Lindsay Snyder, the owner, and she had this guy from Fresno contact me. And I called, this is at Second Botter area. I've also called the Top of the Morn Farms in, I believe they live in Tulare, to try to get them to buy one of those gas stations. And I kind of, I know like some of the radio stations, they moved the towers, there was a KGEN AM, and it was owned by Harry Pappas. And then I also had his engineer. And anyway, they had this radio station, a KGEN AM. It was at a house in Tulare in the residential area. And KBIF was owned by Jim Patterson's parents, Norwood Patterson. That was on Broadway. I think Cook's Communications was on Broadway. It's kind of and there was a KSEQ that was in Visalia in a residential area, the studio. So that's kind of what I'd like to do with this property I have over on Botter Street. And then I also, is going to try to help you guys with the music system downtown. And some of the lawyers I know out of town, they say when they pass through Selma, there's really nothing but the auto mall. I mean, I think we should. Art Gonzalez had a museum, and he wanted to put stuff at the Lincoln Park. And I would think if they had the right signage, people would come downtown more. But that's just my ideas.
Okay. Well, thank you for that input. Anyone else? And we'll have time at the end to, these are just sort of an icebreaker, but
Speak
to
up.
get. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Erlinda Martinez. Actually, I feel that we have the Pioneer Village and there's not enough things there. Like if you go to Casa de Fruta, people actually go there just to buy stuff, whatever is there. I feel that we're not taking advantage of that beautiful Pioneer Village where it could be something where some of the local vendors could sell fresh fruit, where we could have activities that maybe some of our kids from the agricultural department could work on some of the land. I feel that you could even put maybe, I don't know, I'm just suggesting a bakery shop or something that reflects the Pioneer Village theme, and where we could actually attract more of the passengers, or I mean the people that are passing by within the freeway, and we could pull some of that business to our local taxes. I also feel that I compared this area, Selma in general, to other places like Sunnyside, where they've built new homes and they actually have walkways where families could stay safe. I know in the Sunnyside area, in the new, middle income homes, they have track areas, they have walk areas. I mean, I live in an area that I consider myself maybe lower middle income. And just recently they came and they fixed the some of the landscaping on Dinuba. What are we trying to reflect here? I feel that if I'm paying a landscaping fee, then I should get some landscaping. I understand we're in a drought season, but why don't we have drought tolerant uh, trees or plants or whatever?
Yeah,
Yes, I
that is
also agree with the
definitely
other
something
gentleman.
we can include in, as part of this zoning code for requiring when a project goes in that require drought tolerant plants. And there's also state regulations on that as well. So that is definitely something that we could include. And also we can look at, the idea of maybe with this zoning encouraging that recreational tourism or something like that, surrounding the Pioneer Village. So that is something we can look into on that. Does anyone else have any other input they would like to give now? We'll have at the end as well, we're going to ask for more input. So
Bring up the Stillman Avenue thing, you guys.
Spielman.
We
What
did
is
get
that?
your comments in
that?
advance regarding Stillman Avenue
Oh,
yesterday. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, this is
Hello?
Kevin Murray. Are you able to hear me?
yes.
The general plan had a development at Stillman Avenue heading west. And the intersection there was designed more than 20 years ago, or 15 to 20 years ago, to accommodate growth and development for schools and residential heading west out Stillman Avenue. And it's been brought up to the city council multiple times. It's been brought up to the planning department multiple times, but it is something, it's an opportunity in Selma where it has the proper infrastructure already set up. There's water there, there's sewer there set up to accommodate that development going out to Stillman. And right now it's undeveloped land. There's about 40 to 50 acres on the northwest corner of Highway 43 and Stillman, right behind the United Health Center. I don't know if you would call that shopping area that Walmart owns and hasn't done anything with in years and years and years. And they have created a situation where they're not going to allow hardly anything to develop that would compete with the Walmart there. So any kind of retail shopping. it's something that planning department has to look at. You have the infrastructure there. It was part of the general plan for many, many years. And for some reason, that general plan has been lost or not adhered to. And this needs to be taken into consideration by the city of Selma because it is opportunity for growth and it's got the infrastructure already set up.
Okay, yeah, and we'll get into that as how much the city and or the zoning code can, require as far as or allow for development. Really allows for development, but can't require projects to be built. Anyone else?
Yeah, there's
Yes,
some
Jose.
hands raised. There we go.
So I've had the opportunity over the years to work in different cities here in California. One in particular I remember fondly is Lindsay. Lindsay here, I think it's east of Tulare. And it was
Right.
interesting. I was downtown going to the bank, and they had I'm assuming the main downtown street closed off, and they had a lot of vendors out there. And just overall the city, the look and feel itself. I know it's not a very big town. I'm assuming Selma's probably bigger, but it just felt like it was nice to walk almost anywhere you were at. I know they have that McDermott area for the kids, to go and, that they converted for the kids
Right.
to have lots of activities to do. But just their downtown area, I felt, even though it looked a little old, but it was, being refreshed and renewed over the years as I was going to work there. So it's just one area I thought was
Okay, yeah.
similar to Selma.
And that is something we can encourage with the zoning code of walkability and allowing for those types of uses, vendor fairs and those kind of things. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the presentation. And then at the end, we'll have some more questions for you guys to provide more input. Andreas, can you go to the next slide? So this just gives you an idea of what the planning framework is of how planning works in California. So you start with the general plan that has these elements of it's often referred to as the blueprint for development within the within your city of sort of the densities of how development's going to occur, where residential, commercial, other things are going to occur, size of your streets, those kind of things. And then you get into your implementing plans, like a specific plan that's more focused in a specific area of the town, such as a, specific development type of thing. And then you get to the municipal code, which is what the zoning ordinance is in. And that gets into more details on specific properties of what can be built there and how. Next slide, Andres. So what is zoning? Zoning has two components to it. As you see here on the slide, you have your zoning map that dictates the where the zones are and what type of zoning it is in those areas there. And then you have the ordinance itself that then describes what is allowed in an R1 zone, what is allowed in a commercial zone, what type of uses are allowed in there. And then setbacks and things of how it's going to be built. And it's the idea of keeping neighbors healthy and friendly. So it's something you don't want done to you, let's say, neighbor's house. So therefore it's restricted on everybody so that, everybody can get along. That's the way I used to describe it when I was working the zoning counter back in the late 80s. And then what it does not do is it does not mandate construction or operation of buildings. So that's, like the Walmart there, the city can't require Walmart to build on that land. There could be steps to acquire the land or something like that, but they can't dictate to individual property owners to build on a piece of property. They just dictate what can be built if they come in and apply for construction of a building on their site. And then as well, the establishing new land use policies governing density. That's what the general plan does. And then the zoning code implements that general plan. So it doesn't change the general plan. It has to be consistent with that. The next slide. So what does the zoning ordinance do? So it allows what type of uses are going to be allowed on that property. And generally those are broken down into three different categories within any zone. You have your, what we call by right, which is like a single family home. You have a vacant lot that's zoned for residential. You don't have to go get additional approval for that. You just have to submit your plans for building permits. So you're allowed to build that without getting any other additional regulations or a discretionary process where people can say yes or no on how you're building that your house. And then there's conditionally permitted, which are generally more in the commercial or industrial, where let's say a grocery store, or let's say wants to sell beer and wine, or a restaurant wants to sell beer and wine, where the restaurant itself is allowed, but then because can be different issues involved with selling beer and wine, it's a conditional approval, so that it is then something the city reviews, city staff reviews, and it goes to either a director's review, or a conditional use permit would usually goes to a planning commission, and then they can look into it in more detail on those impacts, and then either allow it or not allow it. And then you also have uses that are not allowed in a district, such as a residential district. You're not going to allow a smelting plant next to, within that residential area, because it's not something anyone wants to live next to. So it's uses that are not permitted. So it's sort of the three areas in any zoning district. We break down the uses by. And it develops standards for on those such as setbacks, how far your building has to be from your side yard, from the front yard, from the rear yard. And as well, what is the process for going through a conditional use permit process, so that people can understand what it is, what's going to be involved with them going through that process. And finally, as we've been talking about, it implements the general plan. So therefore it has to be consistent with it. So what the general plan says, is allowed in a certain area, then that zoning then implements what the general plan is saying for that area. Next slide. So why are we updating the ordinance? I think overall, we want to make sure that this zoning code meets the needs of the citizens in the city of Selma. We really want it to reflect what it is that the residents of Selma want in their city. And so therefore encourage that kind of development, and maybe discourage development that isn't one of their, but as well to make it much more easier to use, so that somebody coming in can develop that property in a straightforward process, where we can have a handout saying, here's what you can do in this property. And looking into allowing more by right uses with things we call objective design standards, to require certain improvements or look for those buildings is one of the things we can do with the zoning ordinance. And then as well, mainly we have to make sure that your zoning code meets the state regulations as they are today, and continually be changed by the state, but we want to get your code up into compliance there. Next slide. So this splits into your generally what zoning districts and permitted uses are. This is sort of generally any zoning code is kind of broken down this way. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Brent to continue the presentation with this and talk in more detail on what we're proposing here with your zoning code.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I think what's important to look at here, and I know it's been reiterated on several slides, and that's done on purpose, is the fact that that your zoning is an implementing tool. Zoning implements your general plan. Zoning does not look at the vision for the community. It actually takes the vision that was set in your general plan and then builds upon that and implements it. So in a general plan, you have a vision for your community. In this case, for Selma, the general plan was through 2035. And then now the zoning takes that vision and tries to find the particular standards and uses that will then implement that and make it reality and move it forward. And as Erica touched on, your zoning ordinance is built to include several different zones moving forward. And this is what this slide is talking about. Your zones are broken into a series of categories focused on residential uses, commercial uses, manufacturing, office, and then in this case, mixed use. And the important thing to distinguish here is that there are uses, and this is what Erica touched on, that are permitted by right. This means that you go to the zoning counter and they're approved, and you can move through a building permit phase, or there are uses that are called discretionary uses. Those are types of uses that require additional review by either planning staff, planning commission, or eventually your city council. So within each of these subcategories, we break this out. So an example of residential uses could be single family units or multi-family units, or if you're familiar with new state legislation, accessory dwelling units would fall into that category. Now I heard somebody, was there a question? I heard somebody pop up. Okay. Under commercial uses, this is very typical. Think of this as your traditional retail and service uses. This can be everything from a gas station to a big box store like Walmart off of 99, or it can be some of your more boutique stores and restaurant hospitality services that you'll see along major corridors in downtown. Manufacturing, it's pretty straightforward as well. That includes all of your industrial uses. This also includes uses that emit more emissions, vibrations, dust, and noise. Sometimes these are classified as hazardous uses. So as part of the zoning ordinance update, we take a very fine look at that and make sure that those are compatible with adjacent uses moving forward. So we limit any repercussions from that use to adjacent residential per se. Office, that gets into medical institutions, professional offices. This can be your tax guy, your lawyer, so forth. And then mixed use. This is kind of a catch-all. Mixed use, if you're not familiar with mixed use, combines everything into one. So you will typically have a structure that will include, let's say, commercial on the bottom floor, an office above, or residential above. You usually find mixed use in more intense areas within the community, along corridors, not so much along the fringe. And so this mixed use is a new concept that came out of the general plan that now we're transitioning or implementing as part of the zoning ordinance update. Next slide. So the ordinance also includes this development standards. Now there's one thing I do want to point out here, and this is the last bullet, density and intensity bullet. As part of this effort, we're not modifying the density or the intensity. So those are established in your 2035 general plan. We're implementing those. So in some cases, there is your general plan has a land use designation and it has a range, let's say of dwelling units per acre. That's the amount of homes you can put on a site. And what we're doing is as part of this effort is now applying zones to that designation. So there's that internal consistency we've talked about from the beginning. Development standards range in a whole host of different aspects, everything from building height to setbacks. So that is how far your structure can be from your property line. There's also step backs. So if you have a multi-story building, let's say you have a 3-story structure and you want the second floor to be set back, that's called a step back. It's stepping back from the outer wall. We also get into lot coverage requirements, parking requirements, open space requirements. There's a lot of different development standards that we'll cover as part of this update. And those development standards can vary per zone and can vary per use that we have. Next slide. Now we get into design guidelines. And this is always a fun area if you're familiar with zoning. So design guidelines are encouraging design factors for different types of development. And the reason why we have design guidelines is to overall improve the aesthetics of buildings and developments. You can probably point to developments in Selma or other ones you've seen in the Valley regionally that you're like, that looks great. I would love to emulate that here. And that's the feedback that we really like. That'll help push forward specific design guidelines that'll create that sense of community that makes Selma so unique. And we want to capture that and bring that forward. Now, these aren't design guidelines, just to clear the water a bit, they're not standards. So the difference between guidelines and standard, a guideline is advisory. So when a project comes in, we would advise, as part of this process, the city would advise that the structure meets a certain aesthetic design moving forward. A standard requires that. So that's just some clarification on these two different approaches. But as part of this process, we are going to be collaborating with the city on design guidelines and the best way to incorporate that into the zoning ordinance moving forward. Next slide. So what does the current zoning ordinance include? If you haven't taken a look at it, I suggest you do. There's a lot of different parts in here. There's over 35 chapters. These chapters cover a variety of uses, starting with chapter 1, which focuses on what is the purpose of the code, what's its intent, and how does it relate to other development factors within the city, and how it relates to the general plan. Then we get into chapters 2 through 5, which focus on your different zones and residential. That's where your allowable uses come into play, the different permit requirements and development standards which apply to each of those residential zones. 5 and up goes through commercial, industrial, and then we get into chapter 15, which talks about the different specific plans, master plans that are within the city. And those plans, think of those plans as they're like mini general plans in themselves. So they use the zoning ordinance as the base and then build upon those with additional standards that are specific to just those areas. The final chapters, 16 to 35, those are all your additional development standards. Let's say you have a specific use in the city that requires more review or requires more stringent standards than what is blanketed allowed. That's where those would be permitted. And then also we'll focus on conditional uses, your permitting requirements and noticing requirements if you've ever been an applicant at the planning counter. Next slide. So the biggest question we get through these updates is, so what's actually changing? Why? What are we doing? We've outlined what a code is. We've outlined how why we're doing it for updating with state legislation, updating for consistency. Well, now let's touch on what's actually going to change as part of this effort. One, the overall format and organization is going to get a refresh. So as Fernando had mentioned, the code hasn't been updated in quite some time. And so we want to make sure that it aligns with best planning practices for representing and presenting these codes moving forward. So it's not only easier for the city to implement, but it's easier for everybody on this call to understand when you have to go into the planning counter and supply an application. As part of this, we're going to evaluate all the uses that are allowed in each of the zoning districts. This may require a change in terminology. This may require a change in permit requirement. So there's a whole host of things that we'll look at. And what's going to be great about this workshop when we get into the more public feedback is we'd like to hear from you about what type of uses are we missing? What type of uses should the city consider? Is there something that you would like to see allowed? And then we can take that into consideration and work forward and make sure that this is a product that emulates not only the city's expectations, but the community's expectations. We'll look into additional allowances. And these are some of the fix-it list items that have been brought up through the process. We'll make sure that the ADU ordinance is up to snuff with state legislation. And then at the end, big focus is this is your community. So we're here as technical experts to make sure that we give you the product that gives you the Selma that you always envisioned and builds out of the 2035 general plan. So we're hoping that you can provide more feedback that will help us streamline this process and give you something that'll work. Next slide. So we're getting into now an open dialogue discussion. So as we shift now into public comment and feedback, I'm going to hand this back to Eric with Rincon, and we're going to open the door for questions and answers. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. So what we're going to do now, just to help facilitate the discussions, we're going to break you into breakout rooms so that there's just a few of you, so that everyone has a better opportunity to answer these questions here and provide us that feedback. And then we'll come back after 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes is enough. Discussion, we can come back as a whole group there and then review what everyone has said there, and then provide any other discussions. So with that, Andreas, do you want to break us into breakout rooms?
I think I'll just jump in really quick. Sorry, I'll just jump in really quick to do a little facilitating here. So I think we should do 15 minutes, give everyone, we've got enough time that we can give everyone a little bit more time. And we're going to, just for internally, just for a quick thing, I think we're going to do 4 breakout rooms, and it'll be led by myself, Eric, Brent, and Fernando. Go for it, Andres.
I'm getting it set up right now. It might take a minute or two. Thank you.
Okay.
Did anyone have any questions on zoning while we're waiting? You might get cut off. So we go to the breakout.
Phone also be part of the breakout rooms, or how will they be integrated?
You should be able to incorporate the people on the phone in the rooms as well. I've never had a problem doing that.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
It's
Although I will say, if anyone does get cut off, then you should be able to call right back in. So if we lose you, then call back in.
so yeah, if you want to just review these questions, these are the questions we're going to ask. Maybe some additional ones in those breakout rooms. So start thinking about, is there a different type of housing you want?
I'll be starting those rooms right now.
Okay, thanks, Andres.
Does everyone? It's 4 of us. Yeah. Hi, Charlene. Oh, okay. How about now? No? Okay, give me 1 second. Let me fix my mic.
Do I have anyone in here with me?
I'm in here right now. No.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
Is this the main room or is this a breakout room?
a breakout room.
Okay, it says it's still recording, so I'm not sure how that's working.
Hmm. Yeah, and I can't see any
And-
video.
Hey,
Yeah, can,
Della, can you hear me?
Yes, we
I
can.
can hear you. Can anyone
Okay.
else? So we've got Andres and we've got, is that Fernando?
Yes, so I'm supposed to be in a breakout room, but I'm having some technical issues. My Zoom just kind of froze. And
Okay.
then I think you guys added the city of Selma's account to a breakout room, but there's nobody that's part of that
Mm,
account. So,
Oh, you had two accounts running at the same time?
yep,
Okay.
yep. And that's what I'm talking to you on right now, but I'm supposed to be in a breakout room, but it just completely
Okay,
froze.
so I think Andres, I think you should be able to move.
let's see. Okay, so I can move Fernando.
So Fernando, you need to
Or-
be in the same account as which one? I mean, in the same room as which one?
Let's see.
So my laptop is making this really weird noise right now and it just died. I don't know if you can hear it. So the people in my breakout room, I don't know, Della, if you want to maybe go in there. while
Yeah, I can jump over. Which one is it?
it's the one with Jose Leon or Joey and then Miss Martinez and Charlene.
Got it. Okay, I'll jump over there.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Andres, can you hear me?
I can, yes. Should I move you to a specific room?
Yeah, if you could throw me back into where Della is and I'll just join. I think keeping Della in there is okay though, since she's already gotten started.
I think, let me see. I'm trying to find where, because I see the one, let me see this. I don't think that's
Is
the
it, I
one.
think you had put me in room 3 to begin with, or that, not me, but the City of Selma account.
Okay, because I don't see the second account on here. It's a bit tricky. I'm not sure where it's. I see every room, but I'm not seeing this one. I didn't even see Della's name, but she
What,
can.
what room is Della in right now? Like, what's the number?
It's room 3. No, sorry.
Okay, well, I'll just join because I think that you invited me into that one originally.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Did you happen to move your room?
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, my attorney called me from Washington DC and I'm wondering what room I should go into.
Let me
I
see if I
missed about,
can, let me see if I can move you to a room right now.
who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with Andres Sanchez from Rincon. Let me
Oh,
see.
okay. You guys have done pretty good. I missed
Yeah.
a few minutes of it because I had this attorney. I had to have a password reset and all this. So I missed quite a bit. I really enjoyed it. And I was watching Dwight Nelson. And I was wondering which one I should be in.
Okay, let's see if I can move you to one. Give me 1 second.
Thank you. I hope to meet with you guys eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I think there's going to be a public meeting at some point, which we can inform you in the, once we get back together into the normal presentation. So I just moved you to room 3, but it says you're not joined. It says you're not joined.
How do I join it?
Are you by any chance logged in with 2 accounts?
One account. I should be KMAK-FM.
Yeah, I see that one, and it says currently that you're in room 3, but it also says not joined.
Okay.
I'm not
What
sure
do I
what's going
hit? I don't hit invite, do I?
on. I don't think so, but there must be an option. Let me see. Hold on 1 second.
There's a little microphone and a camera.
Because I can move you, but it doesn't show that. Well, it shows that you moved, but it's just that you're not joined. So I'm not sure if there's something on your end that you might need to click.
Yeah. There's a leave and there's a Zoom and a share content and a more, and that's all I can see. I'm learning this,
Yeah, it's a bit tricky. Let's see.
Something here, join breakout room. What's that?
Yeah, that's going to be it right there. Go ahead and click yes, or go ahead and say yes to that option, and that will take you.
Where's the yes? Join
Oh,
breakout room.
there's
Join.
a
Okay, now I
join.
see it.
Okay. Did it work? Oh yeah, there it goes.
Walmart just relegated itself to staying in the small building that they're currently in. There's a plan that can be developed for that 200 acres that would grow Selma significantly if somebody would just stop ignoring it and get behind it and make it happen. Rosanna,
Yes,
get the meeting set up for this man, will you please?
will do.
Robert, are you still there?
Kevin, can you
Okay.
hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
I think everybody's muted right now,
I can hear you.
Okay.
but you can hear us on 856.
No, I'm speaking through the meeting.
All right, is everyone back?
Oh, there we go.
Looks like
Yes.
everyone's back. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Brent or Eric, do you wanna take it away with kind of coordinating the recaps of what happened in the breakout rooms? Or I can start either way.
I can jump in here, Della, and
All right.
talk about breakout room number 2. So we had 3 participants. Thank you. A lot of good information. There's some big key takeaways that we're looking at as part of this update. One, I think, is the complication of the current zoning ordinance. It's very complicated. It's not very flexible. There's a lot of interpretations. I believe verbatim the term, a lot of gray areas are there. It needs to be more black and white, more clear. Also, the process itself is complicated, and that's seen as a hindrance to potentially new small businesses coming in. Selma is it's an attractive place. People want to live here, but some of the regulations don't allow that, or they strain that, so it kind of caps it. Definitely, housing was the biggest concern in our group. Just making sure that there was access to housing, that there was adequate housing for the community. And by far, it needs to cover a whole mix, not just multifamily, but single family, all facets. And just to make sure that we're realizing that this zoning ordinance is just a small piece of the puzzle. Obviously, there was the general plan, but then there's the pending housing element coming after that. So it's just making sure that everything is cohesive moving forward. That's it.
Okay, breakout room 1, we were discussing the need for development on the property there at Floral and Highway 43 there. So we're going to try to set up a meeting and see what can be done there for that property there. It's a key for development within the city of Selma. Della, do you want to?
I think maybe me and Fernando can kind of tag team it, because we had a little bit of technical difficulties in our room. So our group kind of got started without us as we worked through those. But I know our group really focused on housing. So some suggestions for housing that was needed in the city were ADUs and housing that was really accessible for seniors and those with other disabilities and access issues, and making sure that housing is accessible to transportation and walkable areas, and really ensuring that housing, particularly with middle income homes, are complementing to each other and cohesive. And Fernando or anyone else from my group, if I missed anything, then feel free to jump in there.
You mentioned the accessory dwelling units, I think, is that what it's called, where you can build on your current land?
That's
Right.
right. Yeah. I would just elaborate on that as well. Thank you for clarifying the ADUs. Accessory dwelling units, with the cost of housing, skyrocketing, and definitely we need more options for different demographics, and being able to build on a single family lot an additional dwelling unit would be extremely helpful. for different types of folks and generations. And yeah, I would just echo what Della said about the lower, middle, and upper income homes and developments complementing each other and sort of transitioning appropriately throughout the city.
Yeah. Were we missing any?
Yes, this is Tracy. I had room number 4. It's had some
Okay.
great comments about housing in the first question, really a focus on middle income homes. One specifically cited was saying that her family moved to Fowler and built a house in Fowler because they couldn't find a place here in Selma that fit their family, which they were looking for a 4-bedroom house. Senior housing that also is secure, smaller units for seniors and perhaps has more amenities available, similar with the request for apartments that are more in the mid-range, 2 to 3 bedrooms, also with amenities. They did like the idea of having places nearby to walk to, and that office wouldn't necessarily be a bad option with mixed use because you still need services. Sounds like having walkable options includes both services in retail and entertainment. On the entertainment side, what types of businesses they were looking for? Definitely more family entertainment in Selma, places where kids can go. We have one Pizza Planet that's an arcade, and we've got our bowling alley, but they want to see more activities for kids, keep them off the streets, keep them busy. Things like mini golf, swimming, I don't know, roller skating, and just keeping them entertained. And we didn't get to the last questions when we maybe can recap that with the group and see if there's more comments from my group.
Was there anyone that wanted additional input or recap from Tracy's team?
Yeah, so the last question we didn't cover was what types of uses would fit into parts of the city and what uses may not fit in other places. I don't know if your other groups had discussion on that. I would like to hear a little bit about that if you've got comments.
Yeah, we didn't get into that topic either.
Okay.
Group 1. So overall, is there anyone have, beyond these 4 questions, other input, things that you didn't get a chance to talk about in the breakout rooms?
Well, once again, my name is Erlinda Martinez. One of my biggest concerns would be now knowing that the legalization of marijuana, I would not like to see that in the area where there's children. I wouldn't like to see it an area of permitted, like maybe downtown where there's a lot of people that walk. I mean, I know that it's useful for many people, either for medical users or either for just whatever they use it for. But we need to be careful with that, where if we permit something like that, we have to be careful where we place that, if it's permitted at all.
Yes, and that is something that can be done with the zoning code, and as well, the state law has restrictions on, proximity to parks and schools. So there's those restrictions already in place at the state, but then we can look at modifying those to make them stricter, larger than the state requirement. So state requirements a minimum on those things, but that is something that we can definitely review as we're updating the zoning code.
And I would add, this is Fernando, with the city of Selma, that's, allowing retail facilities for cannabis is something that the city council would have to, take action on and approve and determine. We don't anticipate that necessarily being part of this process. It would probably be its own process where we look at specific items for, cannabis, retail sales and those kinds of things. But like Eric mentioned, that is something that would be part of the zoning enforcement and the zoning code once the council decides to go that route.
Looking at, specific areas of town, so downtown, Selma, what kind of uses do you think you would like to see in that part of the city?
Hi, my name is Beto. So last month I spoke with the mayor about having a farmer's market, which I seen this past week that they plan on having something like that in August on the Fridays, which is really good. I heard Jose Luis say something about Lindsay doing something, and I've gone to Lindsay. It's really nice. So that is a good thing. But I think part of it, I feel like we got some good places downtown, but people just aren't too familiar with them. Like Selma doesn't have that type of like ambient, like we don't have that type of culture in Selma. I feel like it's a cultural thing. Like we don't really go out walking like at other towns. We don't go out late at night walking, trying to find a restaurant. So I feel like part of it is we have some good stuff, like Roscoe's. I haven't visited that place, but I've been meaning to. That pizza place that's right by Bloomie's, I've been meaning to go there, but I just haven't. So I feel like we have some good things, but we're just not very aware, I guess, and we haven't been intentional about visiting and getting to know these places a little bit better. So I feel like with the farmers market, that kind of like exposes them to us, and maybe that can help us to create a culture in Selma that's a little bit more ambient, and like we can start getting a little bit more familiar with our businesses. I feel like people don't really know our local businesses, and there's some good ones like that taco place by ECU. So I feel like a lot of it has to do with the culture, because I feel like we got some good stuff. We just ain't too exposed to it yet, and that's just a cultural thing. We have to build on that. Farmers market, like the stuff that Lindsay does, is a great thing to build community, like binding and community advocacy and stuff like that.
And if I could just respond to that, that's a great comment. I really, I agree with you. And, the city, we're embarking on a process right now. I think what I heard from your comment is that there needs to be more marketing to bring people into downtown to get familiar with what we do have. We're embarking on a process to form a business improvement district that will allow the downtown businesses a little bit more funding and flexibility to be able to, develop those marketing materials and those events and those attractions that I think would get the exposure for those businesses that I think you're referring to. So thank you for that comment.
Yeah, hi, my name is Nick. I'm with the Central Valley Engineering. I have my business here in downtown. I've been doing a business over maybe 12 years here in the downtown areas, and I see that we need to rebuild the structure before we bring any businesses here into the downtown. And I had a conversations a couple of days ago with one of your guys' consultant, Rincon, my input in it, and I was referring to some of our neighboring cities that have similar downtown. The Wood Lake one is the nightlife out there, eating outside, bringing the restaurant types outside eating areas, bringing markets. We need to rebuild this downtowns with better looks and better infrastructure, sidewalks. If you guys, I don't know how many people you guys seen it, Wood Lake, the city, they did the rebuild downtown, and they have a nice bricks in the intersections, and they have a crossing pedestrian lights, and so much nice to it. And people love to bring the businesses to the downtowns. I think that's my opinion is more important to them, so that way the people could choosing the downtown in the nighttime areas. Right now, it's pretty much is during the business days. After 5 o'clock, it's pretty much dead. Thank you.
It's me again, Beto. I agree with that comment about the nightlife and stuff like that. But I also will give some credit. You know, they're improving the roads. The mayor's been putting up them lights that makes it look really nice. The like the memorial. So I feel like Selma is heading in the right direction. And the comment that the guy just said, it all clicks. It's just part of just getting the motion going, get momentum going, open up some restaurants in the night. Because like you said, after 5, that stuff's dead. Ain't no one out there having tacos outside, having ain't no restaurant open that late downtown. But like I said, I will give Summer credit. It looks a lot better. I can see what the in which direction we're going.
Are there other specific parts of Selma that you would like to see, you know, maybe mixed use type of development or different types of housing?
We have several shopping centers in the area, like 5 of them, 4 of them at least from that are not part of the downtown area. And I would, if you're going to promote the downtown, I think you need to have your marketing promoting these other shopping centers. There's a lot of mom and pop stores in there that, you know, if you direct everybody downtown, they're going to be losing business. There are restaurants in all of these areas that are open, but the marketing isn't there. They, especially because they're smaller places, they don't have the advertising money that the big giant restaurants and things have. So if we're going to promote, I think we need to promote the entire city, not just the downtown area. I'd like to see more walking trails or whatever. You go to Clovis and the atmosphere is very conducive to being outside, taking your family for a walk or bike riding. We don't have anything like that here. I know they're supposed to be developing the bike lanes, but they're going to be along the Golden State Boulevard in between the cities. But there's nothing in town. There are no bike lanes in town, things that would encourage people to get out of their cars.
I agree with you, Teresa. You are right. We don't have the trails not going east to the west. And we do need to be improvements. I've been always looking into the Highland Avenue between the 99 through all the way to the Danuba Avenue, and Danuba Avenue from Golden State to all the way to the McCall. And those kind of things that future when they develop those areas, that they need to be recognized that we need trails along with those, you know, and well as on the south side on the Selma, you know, McCall through the downtown. Definitely we have a lot of wide streets here in the downtown areas that can be using some of those bike lanes and trails and so forth on it. And that's what the lack of here too. I agree with you. Definitely, and we need more downtowns. First thing is before that, some of these businesses are very old. You know, they need a facade to be remodeled, their exterior buildings. And some of these old types restaurants need money to improve their fronts. You know, that's what the city needs to be help them out. Somehow we need to find how do we bring those up to that, you know, then obviously we more have businesses will come to the town too, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Could you see some of those shopping centers benefit from like more of a mixed use where they could maybe put in some residential on those, and then it would increase customers there, and and allow for additional development within the city core.
I think that if you had residential, if they're going to be starter home size, you're going to get a lot of maybe unwanted traffic, little kids running around, that kind of thing. I don't know, a mixed use, I would think office and entertainment, restaurants, that kind of thing, but I can't see residential mixed in with that. And then during COVID, a lot of the restaurants were able to have a lot of outdoor dining because that was all that was allowed at that time. I would like to see that continue. It gives the restaurants a bigger capacity for customers, but it's a nice atmosphere when it's nice out in the evening to be able to go to your favorite restaurant, but eat outdoors. It's a very nice atmosphere, I think, and if there's a way to continue that for some of these restaurants, I think it would be helpful to get more people in also.
I also agree. I also agree in regards to the restaurants that there should continue the outdoor eating. Also in regards to the street on Highland. Now, a lot of the residents that live within that area, have you ever seen anybody try to cross the railroad tracks? The pedestrian, there's really no adequate pedestrian crossing right there on the old 99. And if we're going to continue making more retail car businesses there, then we need to consider to have safer sidewalks, even for the salesmen. Have you seen those poor salesmen try to duck the crossing of the cars? There's so many things that we need to look into. Several months ago, before COVID, I bumped into a visitor, I guess that was staying right there where Legends Restaurant is at. I'm not sure the name of the hotel. And they were saying that they wanted to go to downtown. How can I get there? And she kept saying, well, the Google map tells me to go to, what I saw was the barrio. And I'm going like, maybe you shouldn't go there because you're going to get lost. But are we aware that there's really not an appropriate walking area from the underpass? So a pedestrian that is walking towards downtown could actually cross safely where the traffic is exiting into Old 99. Has anybody seen that? Or is it just that I was the only one that observed that? That it's almost basically hard to cross that underpass and go to downtown.
I agree with you. I'm sure there is a golden state corridors going to help that out a lot. I think the city's waiting the Fresno counties to do those plans from Kingsburg to Fowler. I think if I remember seeing something at the city plans that they were going to do something on it. So I don't know, maybe the city could answer that questions. I agree with you. There's a lot of accident happens. There's no sidewalks. And that one too, and well as on the Rose Avenue and Highway 43. And that one is a dangerous spot too. And these definitely needs to be looked into it.
Yes, this is Fernando with the City of Selma. We have an active transportation plan that was developed, I believe, about 3 years ago. We can look at that to see what pedestrian improvements, pedestrian safety improvements have been included along that route. And if there is nothing stated in that document for that particular area, it is something that we can go back and amend because that would help us obtain some funding to be able to make those types of safety improvements for pedestrians and bicyclists and other folks who are, kind of interacting with the motorists along that route. So thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you, Fernando. As far as the mixed uses, I believe Teresa, that mixed uses will bring more businesses to their town. If we have medical buildings along with the other stuff, convenience stores or residential, that's how the downtown Fresno is right now. The downtown Fresnos have residentials mixed with the commercial, mixed with the little bit everything. That would somebody want to spend the money into the town. I think that's a great idea. That if they have a piece of properties that they could mix uses in it. But again, we needed some kind of protocols. The nice building. We don't want it to have the buildings just very straight building. You know, we needed some sort of nice looking buildings, you know, nice looking convenience stores, modernizations, something like the Kingswork. They have the theme, you know, they got the Swedish theme, and Selma should have some sort of raisin theme, you know, where we have nice buildings bringing into the town, and not just like putting any kind of building out there, in my opinion. And that would revive the downtown, revive the city, and have a nice coloring schemes or something in a downtown. That would bring it up, you know. But yeah, no, I think the mixed uses is a really great idea.
Also, my suggestion is also that if we're going to make additional housing, that we always accommodate areas, residential areas for our children to walk in these new housing developments. Once again, I'm going to use the Sunnyside area that has a lot of the newer homes. They have the walking path. They have the neighborhood small park. They have the open space so the children could play safely with their families and gather. All of that, I know some of the developers might not be too happy about because they have to render some of the land for that. But also it could be a plus point to say, hey, this is a community where you want to stay, a house that will not be temporary, it would be permanent, because we have this, we have the little local neighborhood park, we have the space where your kid and the family could play baseball or soccer, whatever. That's something we have to consider, not just develop homes and there's nowhere to put the kids and they have to go use the local schools nearby. I don't think that's right. We need to embed some of these standards when some of the builders are building, because we're trying to build a community where people want to stay for generations to come, not somewhere where they're saying it's overcrowded. I have to take my kid 10 minutes away just to play baseball or whatever.
Okay. So yeah, the idea of developing pocket parks is often referred to in residential areas. Do you see opportunities in existing, like along existing commercial areas, to maybe encourage mixed use on those commercial areas, or something on that side?
Well, once again, I'm going to ask, what is the use in Pioneer Village? What is it? I mean, it's a beautiful restaurant there, and there I see some I guess museum buildings or something. But what else is there? Where else could be built? We have Casa de Fruta. I mean, seriously, we'll just travel just to go there just because. How come we don't have a vision for that place? We have Pioneer Village, but we need a vision so that it could attract more people to that area. You know, make it also where it's safe, where there is a safe entrance and exit to that area. I'm not sure what the zoning area is there, nor do I know what could possibly go there. But when I see Casa de Fruta, I see Pioneer Village. And I feel that we could do many things with that land.
Yeah,
Mrs.
so we
Martinez.
can, oh, go ahead, Fernando.
Sorry, this is Fernando again with the city of Selma. Yeah, you make a great point. So Pioneer Village has its own zoning district, its own zoning code, because my understanding is back when it was given to the city as a historical area, there was supposed to be a specific plan to guide sort of the use and the development of that area. Right now, I'm going to connect you with our community services director, who's in charge of our parks, who is in charge of approving events out there. I know we've had discussions about what kinds of things we could do with the historical buildings and what other kinds of attractions we can, bring out there to actually bring more of the community members out there to that site. So if you don't mind me connecting you with Michael Kirchner, our community services director, I can absolutely do that. And then we can have a conversation about, specific things that you have ideas about at Pioneer Village.
Fernando, thanks for that. We had a meeting with Mike Kushner about a couple of months ago, with the committee on the Pioneer Village. I represent the Selma Business Alliance, and we submitted preliminary plans to be building a hall in their event center that I think would accommodate 300-400 people to have a dining area or a little events area where people could use that place. And that's what I think last meeting, we're still working with the Pioneer Village to come up with that. But obviously we need money and a lot of other things to get this through. And I believe Selma Business Alliance is forwarding to putting a building out there. I think they're working on it. So I just want to let you guys know that too. They have some plans. We did some events there a couple of years ago. I think we also lined up a couple this year's too. So yeah, definitely that needs to be improved. That's a very one of the place that we all needs to be look into it. Historical buildings there and so forth. And I think the lagging of the parking is the one that we don't have parking over there. That's what the major problem with the Pioneer Village. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick.
What would you see as maybe some good uses surrounding the Pioneer Village? Not on the property itself, but uses surrounding that.
Well, I feel that because of the way the Pioneer Village sort of theme is, have we considered, or have anybody considered that maybe an outdoor venue type of thing for weddings? I see weddings. I mean, like I don't know what they call it, like a stand, an outdoor stand where if they're going to have an event. I think several years ago they had like a mariachi event or something like that. I can't remember. I remember going to there, but do they have like an area where they could put a band and something could happen on Saturdays where they could have events? And I mean, like the Woodward Park, I know that one probably it has an area where you could actually place a band. And then you could have outdoor events, not just that. It could be all types of events. It could be a wedding. It could be a mariachi event. It could be a band event. It could be any kind of event, where it's also outdoors. Because maybe some people don't want to have a wedding inside a building. Maybe they want a nice venue where they could take advantage of that. Even the local restaurant could cater events there because it's right there.
We do rent that facility out. It is available through our parks department for weddings are held there. There are festivals, music events. There is a Tejano and country event coming up soon, and it was used during COVID for, I believe, films out in the park. So a lot of the use of that location comes down to marketing. I think people just aren't aware that it is available for use. But I have heard other comments from other folks about the parking in that area. To hold a really big event, where does everyone park? And it's right up against the backside of a Home Depot, and there's a shared parking lot with the Cattleman's restaurant that's there.
And who does
I
that,
think-
excuse me, and who does that big old lot belong to? That empty space that there's nothing there, that's just dirt. I mean, is that part of their land too? Or whose
No,
land is it?
there's a separate private owner that they've been trying to look for a way to fill that with different uses. So it's been in discussion of what that property could be used for, but definitely want to consider with the zoning, you know, is this an area of town where you would allow taco trucks and a farmer's market? And, you know, what parking amount do we need if we're expecting to do events that are, you know, 400 or 500 people out there? I'm not sure what the capacity is. We'd have to get that information.
I think something like a little strip mall, but with smaller retail spaces that would encourage and entrepreneurship, somebody who's just getting their business started. You know, some of the people that are going to be at the farmer's market making soaps, jams, things that go along with the idea of Casa de Fruta, but having small retail spaces that are available and affordable to new businesses to get them off the ground, that would encourage people in that area to, if the Pioneer Village, because they do have a museum there that is open. They have the Danish museum there also. So there are things that people could do in the area on a daily basis, but having something to attract them, like I know that there's this homemade jam place there, or that kind of thing, a small bakery, things that would encourage people to stop by and not just to look at something, but to spend some money and to do something. Again, there's not that much entertainment in the city of Selma. Something like that you could take the family to, walk through the Pioneer Village, buy a couple things and spend some time there. I think that there's enough property out there if it could be put to that type of use, encourage the use of the Pioneer Village also.
I just wanted to make a comment. So I'm not sure if you're aware, Ms. Martinez, but the Pioneer Village actually has a committee, and there's currently one vacancy that anybody that lives in the city of Selma or works in the city of Selma, I'm sorry, or owns a business in the city of Selma, they can apply. So I would encourage you to contact Reina, the city clerk, and I believe it's on the website as well, to put in your application, because we do have a vacancy right now, and that would be great. You sound like you would be a great advocate for that area, for that committee, because you have a lot of ideas, and I think we need, this way you're aware and you can help us with marketing that area.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, because you know what? I go to San Diego just for to the old town San Diego, because of all of the little shops, and because of they have local events on the weekends. And you know, why do I need to go to San Diego when I have a beautiful city that could probably, you know, have something like that locally, that's only like maybe 5 blocks away from my house? You know, why should I go that far when my local taxes could go back to my city? You know, and we could also attract so many people and off of the freeway to come and enjoy those things that we could actually possibly, you know, attract other people to come and spend here local. You know, and I just see that it's an empty lot, and other than the restaurant and the museums, well, to me it looks pretty empty. And it's a beautiful piece of land. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, this is Nick again. One of these comments is that I was going to make the railroad properties going through the city of Selma. It's when there's hundreds of years. Some of those properties are like 400 feet wide, and it's been located, nobody's using it for so many years. especially by the downtown area where the PD office, old police department's office, and some of those buildings are. Those are in the railroad properties, all those are. That one should have something, needs to be, the city needs to be bringing into the greenery, putting more landscaping throughout that. I mean, the major part of the downtown is when the trains come through it, everybody's have hard times to try to do their businesses. I even have to hold my phone. I can't even answer my phone when the train is passing by it. To environmentally and for pollution wise, that always needs to be improved throughout the city of Selma, on the both side on east frontage and west of frontage street, putting some landscaping through there. That's the ugliest street I've seen in I think, in my opinion. So that one's city needs to be looking into some kind of grants, bringing in, improving those, putting a sidewalk, putting more parking there so that people could enjoy the downtown area. You know, those lots are been emptied out there. Work with the railroad. They're not going to take that land and have them put more parking or something. You know, put them more electrical vehicles parking. You know, that kind of stuff that city could bring into it. More little parks, little people could park their vans and so forth. It's just my opinion. I might be wrong.
When you say bring in their vans, you mean like bringing in like food trucks?
The bidding, yeah, food trucks, or you could say even those, what do you call the share bands, the band pools, you know, people that park here, because this is the middle part of Danuba, Kingsburg, Fowler, Hanford, a lot of towns that we are right in the middle. There's a Mountain View comes from Danuba. There's a Manning Avenue come from Ridley, Parlier. We are right on the hub, and that people could park here and could go from 99, that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of, it's not that many spots here in a town where people could come as a tourist, you know, and enjoy their places. Those are been vacant for so many years, those lands out there. There's so much land, but somebody need to work with the railroad companies, try to leasing it city, so they could put the parks, they could nice landscaping, nice sitting area, nice trails going left and right through there. I mean, like, look at the Merced. The city of Merced has done a lot of stuff. There's some other cities making an old museum as a depot, and maybe there was some police department, old police department turned into the depot like a Kingsburg did. Kingsburg turned into the museum, and people go there to visit as a museum, that railroad depot, that kind of stuff. That city needs to be look into that, make attraction for something another. That would be benefits the city, in my opinion. That would bring some people more to the downtown to look at it, tourist place, you know.
Yeah, thank you for that input. Yes, some of this stuff is all, it's more planning things that maybe we can't get, you know, we can attempt some of this with the zoning code update. Generally, when you're developing putting those things in for the zoning ordinance to do those kind of improvements, they're tied to individual projects coming in and doing improvements and, you know, on the frontage of that lot that's being developed. But this is all still good input that the city staff will take for other planning purposes. So we really appreciate this input.
Another concern that I have, and I think we haven't even touched bases on this, is the zoning code of what type of vehicles can be parked in front of homes. At one time, we had an RV that would move. I'm assuming it was a person that didn't own a home and they lived off of the RV. And I remember seeing that RV parked in our neighborhood in different areas, different sections. They would just come and they would take turns in front of the neighbors' front homes and just park their vehicle there. And I'm thinking, um, I I understand, right? I understand that everybody's in different situations, but if I wanted an RV, I would have purchased one and I would have had my RV in front of my house. So what's the zoning code on commercial vehicles like that and big RVs and big campers and cars that have not been mobile for like, I don't know, months? What is the city doing in regards to that? Because for me, it's an eyesore.
Definitely. Mrs. Martinez, we are addressing that currently within the next month. We're taking to the Planning Commission and then to the City Council a revised ordinance that deals not just with RVs and mobile homes parking on city streets, but also trucks and trailers, commercial trucks and trailers. So that's not something we wanted to address that, separately from the zoning code update because it is an urgent issue that I think the community is dealing with right now. That needs to be addressed. So we will see you will see that come through to the Planning Commission and the City Council here shortly. We're not going to be allowing it. I mean, there might be small exceptions for RVs. Assuming that the City Council adopts it, there wouldn't be RVs and mobile homes allowed to be parked on residential streets and city streets. And there would be specific districts allowed for mobile homes, which is currently the case right now. However, our zoning ordinance just is kind of vague on how much time, an RV or a truck trailer can be parked on a residential street. But that is going to be tightened up a little bit within the next month.
Thank you.
Mr. Boneberg, I believe Eric, right? Your name?
Yes.
Yeah. The far as the general plan 2035 at the city of Selma, and I was concerning on that. There's a lot of stuff that been planned on or even on the north side of it. There's a lot of things that I don't think is that I would ever gonna work with that. Does that you guys looking into the amending the general plan amendment and maybe in the future and maybe rezoning it some of those areas for the next 30-40 years? What we are looking into it. I see a lot of stuff that I know that city of Selma wanted a crossover project on a Mountain View in 99 for last 10 years, but it's never been worked. It never been nobody doing it. And have it rezoning it to the different zoning, it mixed uses or commercial uses at the major intersection on the roads out there on Mountain View, along Highway 43, McCall Avenue, Danuba Avenue, and so forth. Do you know if that you guys are?
We say that's not part of the scope of work for this project. We're updating the zoning code. So that would be a separate project or something that the city would have to look into as far as amending the general plan to change the type of uses they want to see in that area. So, say be a different project.
Yeah.
And what we would do here is it would be more working with what's currently designated in there for the general plan and developing the zoning code that would help implement that or to the extent possible to make other improvements there.
I mean, like you said,
that could encourage, maybe it to get developed.
Yeah, but you're saying amending the zoning codes and all that stuff. But how do you do that if there's no infrastructure, there's no water or the sewer? So how are you guys going to do that?
Right. So that's something else that's more tied to the general plan and capital improvements as development comes in to that. You can sometimes require them to pay their fair share for improvements to that infrastructure to allow the development to occur. But a lot of that is, again, beyond the scope of this project. This is looking at, improving your zoning code to we want to be able to streamline development and encourage the development that you want to see in the city. And make it business friendly, and as well, heard a lot of talk about, walkability, and that can come with the mixed use type of developments. And looking at what we can require in the zoning code to make sure as developments come in, they can do those improvements.
Yeah, definitely we need more housing. I would assume that, because we are short as 14 million homes in California, and we need more housing here in Selma, more affordable, more better apartments, the townhouses, the high standard houses, and all that stuff. And that's what the lack here, there's a lot of the houses. And if you guys could, look into that, that would be really awesome. I know we wanted some sort of standard too. We don't want to bring just the housing there or the apartments there. We need to have like some standards that people just want to do it and have them nice building. We don't want to have them just putting in square boxes out there, not doing it correctly too, right?
Right. And that's what we look at with that, as Brent had discussed in the presentation, the design guidelines. And we can also look at specific, potentially standards for development beyond that are in addition to or in lieu of those design guidelines. So there's definite ways we can look at, making sure that we get good looking development and quality development.
And just to jump in here real quick, I think talking about constraints, the question of, well, what about infrastructure? So as part of that general plan process that was done a number of years ago, that's looking out to the year 2035, that general plan evaluated where development in the community would go, and then analyze that through environmental documentation known as environmental impact report to make sure that that infrastructure or future development could occur with the infrastructure within the community or projected infrastructure. So that was already looked at as part of the general plan. So tying it back, the zoning just implements what the general plan has laid out as the framework. So this is the next step in implementing what the general plan vision was for the city of Selma through the year 2035 and moving forward. So we're not actually going back and tweaking the general plan land use map or tweaking the adopted general plan vision per se, or any of the infrastructure requirements, because the general plan already analyzed that moving forward. I think what's important here is any questions that are in regards to the overall general plan and the previous update that the city has gone through, looking out to 2035. I think those comments would be best directed to Fernando or other city staff who could help walk you through that process and what that means for the zoning ordinance moving forward.
Yeah, no, I understand, Mr. Gibbons. What I was just saying is how you guys are gonna implement the zoning ordinances and all that stuff if there's no infrastructure. How do you guys, there's no master plan on it. There's no there's no water plans on it. There's no wastewater. So you know what I mean? If in the city of influence, in the district, but there's no water or the wasteland, how you guys going to implement on it? You guys need a master plan, or don't you?
Well, so for some of these plans, so we're not looking at zoning outside the sphere. So the city only has land use controls within their city limits. So the general plan, you're right, that looks beyond outside into the sphere of influence in a planning area. So as part of this effort, we are working with the city and the community to create development standards. Now, when a project comes in on a parcel by parcel basis for every individual property, at that point, that property owner and applicant will have to work with the city to determine what sort of infrastructure requirements are related to that specific project. So that's on a project level. So we're just setting the development standard. So if development was to occur at some point, this is the checklist you'd have to go through. There's a whole host of other things in which you're touching on, that will happen through the building department or public works. All of that's got to be checked off first as part of that. So
Yeah.
there's a distinction between these two different pieces. We're just driving what, if development does occur there, what that development will look like and what it'll have to be built out to form-wise. But if a project comes in and it's reviewed at the counter, the city will check to make sure that there is adequate infrastructure, adequate utilities for that to even move forward.
Exactly. Now, thanks for making it clear on that, because if we have standards, but we don't have the infrastructure for the projects, then how is that going to work? You know, definitely that needs to be worked with you guys along with that, at least within the sphere of influence. I know there's a lot of areas that we don't have them. We have a houses project on 2,000 houses on Amberwood. And the major problem is bringing infrastructure onto there. And that's what the problem is, costing $7-8 million for the SKF to bring in there, and waters and that kind of stuff is that. So definitely, I'm pretty sure the city's already into the working on it, on these stuff, but there's two other districts that we need to get along with them, you know, and especially the Calwater, SKF, and those are the major part of the city of Selma too. You know, I hope that maybe in the future meetings, maybe we could discuss with them too.
Okay. Well, this is scheduled to 2 o'clock, but so we're happy to stick around if you have more comments. Something we haven't touched on is industrial development. I don't know if anyone has anything to bring up on as far as looking at industrial development within Selma, or maybe more light industrial type uses. You know, there was some discussion on like maybe cottage industries of developing, allowing for that type of uses to assist with small startups.
Right now, I believe they have zoning in the south side of the town and the north side of the town along on Golden State. I believe industrial that along the 99, I guess the Golden State around there. So yeah, definitely we do need more industrial to bringing into the town. That would create more jobs. And like right now, we have some of these industrial area that uses by the high-speed rail people, you know, and those kind of bringing a lot of jobs to us. But definitely, we should encourage to be bringing more industrial into the towns, you know, especially the rural transits. I think they were going to come to the town and so forth. There's a lot of things that in my opinion, that we should bringing into it, you know. We need a more accessibility from the 99. That a lot of people's looking into it, you know, when we do the projects, and people's always wanted get easy access to the 99, you know, and maybe looking around the 99, you know, where maybe some of those areas that easy zoning, you know, that can be done. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of noises adjacent to the 99, and that can be industrial areas, you know, that can be useful. I support on it. I think we should. We have some industries like around here. We have Kingsburg, we got a Sunmaid packing, we got a Lion packing here in Selma around there. And Fowler is a big industrial. We have Sweet Bees and some other stuff that why not we have it in Selma. We need to have more lands available that people could come here and do that, in my opinion.
Again, the more land would be more relative to the general plan, but so be looking at the existing industrial lands we have here and what kind of development standards or making it maybe easier for development to occur under the zoning code for industrial.
I think a lot of that goes back to the marketing too. I mean, we have an industrial area in town, but there's very little out there. If we market what we have and show what infrastructure is already there and in place, and encourage businesses or industries into our area to aid in job development and that kind of thing. But I personally don't hear about those things. I know I'm not in that sphere of businesses that would be looking for something like that. But I know we have the city website, but are we reaching out to other industries or people that might be a good fit for the city of Selma? I don't know how much land we have available for industrial use, but those are things that should be easily accessible, because maybe I might know somebody who's interested, to give them a direction to go into. With the zoning, what you're working on is good, but we need more information readily available to the citizens of what zoning is where, and encourage cottage development, encourage industrial development, so that we can turn around and tell this new friend of ours who's trying to get a business off the ground, hey, I know a place, I know how Selma is set up, that you should look there.
Mrs. Salas, Mrs. Salas, this is Fernando, and thank you for that comment. I think sort of in line with what you're saying as far as allowing or having enough land available for entrepreneurs and people who want to start businesses. I think what goes hand in hand with that as well is having the flexibility built into our zoning code that allows uses, innovative uses, things that we necessarily haven't necessarily thought about. If an entrepreneur comes in and wants to do, let's say, a brewery in an old warehouse, does our zoning code allow for that flexibility? I've seen storage container, restaurant parks in, El Paso and Long Beach and Las Vegas. Does our zoning in an industrial area allow for that kind of thing if it's close enough, to other retail areas? And so I think, to your point about, encouraging entrepreneurship and business startups, I think we have an opportunity here with this project to incorporate some flexibility for things that we maybe haven't thought about yet. So thank you for that comment.
And that's something with part of this zoning code update, is that we're going to try to make it so that it's more user-friendly on the city's website. And so create more interaction so that it can then be easier for potential clients or to people moving to Selma to see what's available and how they can develop within the city of Selma.
Yeah, I would add also that in industrial, that have availability for the mechanic shops, availability for somebody want to do the trucking repair shops or so forth on it. And there's a lot of people who are always looking into those kind of stuff, trucking yard, and where their flexibility on it and so forth. Those are, if it's easy to somebody want to do it, like City of Danuba is another example. What they do, they have them availability if you go to the city, and they have the places availability, and they not only help you find a place, they will help you to develop that. And they help you to sort of give it a break on your sales tax, or break on something on it for a year or so much that people are bringing into it. And those are up to the city, that if you really wanted to do those standards updates and have them encourage the people to be come into the town. I know we did that project in City of Danuba, no problem. And then they let you develop it, very friendly staff, and you go there, no problem. Kingsburg, no problem. They just they want you to come to their town and do it, but their own standards. That's what the beauty of it. So they tell you what standards to be followed and done. And that kind of stuff, we looking into the town more. It needs to be we need to be looking into the like all the sides. I'm glad that you guys actually doing this finally, where you guys are getting the inputs from the people here locally, from the business owners. I'm very glad that I hope that this continues to goes and get it somewhere,
Yes, thank you for that input. So we're going to wrap up this session, and we're going to have in the future, I believe it's August 23rd, we're shooting forward to have a joint Planning Commission City Council meeting to discuss the zoning code update, so the public can attend that meeting. And then in September, we're looking at doing an in-person workshop, open house style meeting, so you can come talk to us about where we're at with the project and gain additional input from you guys and others on development of the zoning code. So I want to thank you very much for your attendance today. And our plan is that we've recorded this session so that this will be made available on the city website. So you can, others that might have, that might have missed the meeting that couldn't attend can download the meeting. And as well, we'll have the PowerPoint available on the website for people to view as well.
Eric, if I could mention something, I don't know, I might have missed it when you were talking about the joint planning commission and city council, but sometime in mid-September, we're going to have another community workshop where we're hoping to do that in person, or we're going to gain additional feedback from anybody who wants to join us. And that's going to be either a weekend or an evening workshop to be able to maximize the attendance at that workshop. So if you'd like to continue this conversation, and if anything else occurs to you between now and September, please, you're more than welcome to attend that as well.
Yes, Andreas, go to the last slide. So, there's contact information for Fernando and then for myself. So there's, if you think of other things, feel free to email us that information there. And so we'll conclude this meeting, and thank you very much for all your input and your attendance and enthusiasm for the city of Selma. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.